These people have seen and promise us to tell all, because the hired help tells all is the focus of this edition of Geraldo. I also want to introduce Mike Walker. He's the gossip editor and the columnist for the National Enquirer. He's the guy who edits those 2 pages that everybody turns to first when they pick up the Enquirer. I want to start right with you, Larry, out in Los Angeles, joining us via satellite. You've heard all those stories that were so rampant a year ago. The king of rock and roll never died back in 1977, that it was all a charade so he could become a private citizen. Elvis is still alive. I know that you know from firsthand that that is not the case. Why?
That's exactly right, Geraldo. In fact, that's the very introduction to our book. It starts at the funeral parlor in Memphis when I was asked by Vernon Presley to go and prepare Elvis's hair for his funeral. And you can imagine the shock. I mean, I'm sure you knew where you were that day. Most people do when they heard that Elvis died. When I arrived on the scene at the Memphis parlor to do his hair, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. There were thousands and thousands of people outside. It was hot and muggy. There were helicopters buzzing up ahead. I was led into a building by a dozen or so police officers, and they led me down this corridor. And I was thinking as I'm walking down, how am I going to do this? Is this real? Is this a nightmare? What? I felt like I was hemorrhaging inside. And then I was led into a room, and there's Elvis lying on a table. And it was the most awesome reality to present itself.
So now, was your job then to dress the king up so he would look his best on that,
exactly.
Final public appearance?
You know, a few months earlier he said, hey, I know what the public is thinking, I know what people are saying, I know how I look, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to look good in my casket. And that kept ricocheting back and forth in my mind. I walked into the room, I looked at Elvis, and I wasn't prepared that he had a regrowth of white hair because we were off touring for about 6 weeks. And after working with someone so intimately for so many years, Geraldo, you know that person, you know that person's body. And I proceeded to do Elvis's hair. It took quite a while, it took about an hour. One of Elvis's friends and associates, Charlie Hodge, assisted me. And I can tell you categorically that the truth of the matter is Elvis did die in 1977. And so I can get a little bit of information. Geraldo, when she was on your program, did she speak about that picture in the National Enquirer that didn't look like Elvis?
Oh, the woman who maintained that Elvis wasn't dead?
The one that fabricated the story.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I wasn't listening that closely.
Well, you know, she quoted me in her book, and she said that I pasted Elvis's sideburns on, and she got that from Albert Goldman's book, which was ridiculous. Are you saying
that, you know, just to make this, to go from the sublime to the ridiculous, Elvis really had white or gray hair?
He had white hair. I dyed his hair black for many, many years. In fact, in 1956 is when he first started to dye his hair black.
56?
1956, yes, in Loving You. I wasn't working for him then. I started working for Elvis in 1964. But during all those years, I dyed his hair black.
You know, he was concerned, you mentioned his appearance. Yeah. He was overweight. I mean, he was very heavy. He was
Elvis was
fat,
well, he was bloated, Geraldo. Elvis had tremendous physical problems. He had glaucoma, he had hypertension, he had a spastic colon, and he thought perhaps he had cancer.
Now, Mary Jenkins is here in our New York studio nodding her head. Now, I understand he was troubled physically, but tell us what Elvis's favorite snack was, Mary.
What his favorite snack was peanut butter and banana sandwich.
I want to be right back because we asked Mary to prepare a sample of what Elvis liked to eat. Now, take a look at this. This is not what you call health food, though, is it? Now, you eat very many of these. Now, you're probably a great banana and peanut butter sandwich maker. But,
Yeah,
you can't
I
have too
make 'em,
many of
but
these
I didn't
and
eat
still
too
be-
many of them.
What-
But he just loved them.
He did?
Oh,
Would
yeah.
he eat a whole bunch?
Oh, my goodness, yeah. But the first time that I ever made some for him, that morning I walked into the dining room and I said, "You ready for your breakfast?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I got something new for you this morning." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Peanut butter and banana sandwich." I said, "What?" Just like that. And he said, "Yeah, I brought this menu back with me, this recipe." And Priscilla said, "Mary, don't get excited." She said, "He made me go back 5 times before I got it right." And the first time I went, I fixed them, brought them back. That's not right. Second time, the same thing. Third time, the same thing. And the 4th time, his father, he said, "Mary, I'm going to go in the kitchen and help you, see if we can get it right." And when we got in the kitchen, he said, "Let's toast the bread first and then fix the sandwich." And we did. We toasted the bread, put the peanut butter on there, and then sliced the bananas. And
I had no idea that peanut butter and banana could be that complicated.
well, it's
Joan Hannah, what did Frank
For the
Sinatra?
lady on the end, Elvis's cook,
Yeah.
Mary. I hear everyone complaining about like Jaja and Mr. Sinatra. How was Elvis as a, an employer? Was he nice to you?
lovely. He was a wonderful person, and he did so many wonderful things for me. In '74, he bought me a beautiful home and a new car for my Christmas present. And when he passed, everybody, my phone rang all night long asking me, what did he, they wasn't interested in him dying. They wanted to know, what did he leave me? I said, he give me mine whilst he was alive. And he was a wonderful person. He would help anybody that needed help if he knew it.
Geraldo?
Yes,
He
Larry.
was just
Can
a
I
wonderful
jump in on this?
person.
Go ahead.
Geraldo, it's unbelievable to me. I'm hearing these stories of people calling Mr. and Mrs. and the rigidity and the formalities. Elvis was the most extraordinary person in terms of he would give so much of himself to other people, like Mary was saying, but cars, homes, jewelry, transplants, kidneys.
Right.
I never saw a day go by in Elvis's life where he didn't give something. He was so appreciative that he was in the position that he was in. We would be at the studios, and one of the workers would say, "Mr. Presley." He'd say, "No, no, call me Elvis." Never Mr. Presley, always Elvis.
That's right.
Very informal.
Was Rose Kennedy, Barbara, that informal?
No, not really. She was very easy to be around, but she wasn't that informal. And that in that way, she was very inspiring to me.
Was she like Elvis, a generous person?
No. She was too precarious to be generous. She's very stingy. If she gave...
Still really like?
Priscilla was a wonderful person, but you had to learn her to know. Now, the first day that I started working there, I don't know, it looked like I was afraid of her. And I washed, when I first started to working there, I was the maid, because they had a cook, and they didn't need a cook. And I washed that day, and I forgot to wash it, I ironed. And the best pair of pajamas she had, I was ironing them, and I'd taken the whole plug out of them. I said, "Oh, Lord, I just got here today, and I'm fixing to leave today." And they got up and got ready for dinner. And I went into the dining room. She said, "Mary, what's wrong with you?" She said, "You look mighty sad." I said, "Well, it's sad time." She said, "What is it?" I said, "I was ironing your pajamas, and I taken a plug out of them. And I know you gonna find me." She said, "Oh, Mary, throw them things in the garbage and go on back to doing what you're doing." So when she said that, I just felt so much better. I just felt like a new person. And from then on, I learned her. And the older she gotten, and the longer I stayed there, the better she was. And she's a sweet person.
Okay, do you think... I have a question about Elvis. I've always wondered, how come he couldn't get good medical care?
Larry?
Yes.
Why couldn't Elvis get the right doctors?
Elvis had too many doctors. It was
Yeah,
really
I knew
tragic.
some of them, too.
He had, and not only did he have different doctors, but none of them were in touch with one another.
He had drug prescribers. He didn't have doctors.
Exactly. They prescribed medications to him, and the guy was really a victim of a horrendous situation. And remember, in 1977, and until now, we've come a long way. There was no Betty Ford clinic. People weren't revealing that they had problems with substance or alcohol or whatever. Elvis wanted to come clean. He was looking for a way to change himself, and he knew that stories were coming out, and that's why this book, If I Can Dream, came into being in the first place, because he asked me, and of all the books that have come out, this is the only book that has been authorized by Elvis, and I think it's a very important point. And in this book, he wanted people to know not only the great things about his life and his aspirations and his spiritual quest, but he wanted people to know the downside and his struggles and what he was going through. And I was keeping a diary at that time, thank God, and that's why this book is so qualitatively different, because this is everything that Elvis had to say about his life, about his mother, about death, about drugs, about you name it. And
he certainly had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, at the end of his life, he was really almost a pathetic shell of the man he had been.
Well, I must say something, Geraldo. Behind the scenes, behind closed doors, Elvis's mind was as lucid as ever, he was as vital as ever, and yet he was bombarding his system with things that he thought the doctors were helping his problems with.
Well, Placidil, Seconal, Dilaudid, I mean, the man was a walking drugstore. Got to take a break, and we'll find out about Elvis's temper. Mary Weinstein. My beloved Millie has a question. What, Don?
Well, once in a while when I see Geraldo having a little too many margaritas, he loves margaritas, I say, hey.
Excuse me, next question. We'll have another question.
Mary, do you ever dare to tell Elvis, son, you're not looking so good, why don't you seek some help, I love you and I hate to see you like that, looking like that. Don't you ever say anything to him?
To Elvis?
To Elvis?
Well, I would do my part. I would do what the doctor asked all of us to help him to get on a diet, to stay on the diet that he put him on.
But all of you probably knew that the doctors were killing him. I would have called the doctors. I would have said to the doctors, you all get out of here. And
She would have, I promise.
The food that the doctor was giving us authorities to give him, it wasn't killing him.
Well, she's talking about pills. She's not talking about pills.
Oh, pills were not pills.
No,
I had lots of people that asked me about that. And I was around him more than anybody except his wife, I think.
Well, you could have helped him.
But I never seen him look like he was on a pill.
You could have helped him, Mary.
You two could get together later now. Excuse me, Your Honor.
If I had known he was on it, but I didn't know.
Hi, I'd just like to know if any of you are current.
I had several.
They'll keep carrying on.
I'd just like to know if any of you are currently.
I want to quickly mention the three books that have already been published here. Well, I've got a minute left. Larry Gello, we mentioned If I Can Dream. Mary's book is Memories Beyond Graceland Gate. Fiona again?
Actually, I got 4 movies coming out this year that I'm in, and I'm never going back to work for anybody again.
You know, Victor and Ricardo sitting right next to them. Don't they look like Elvis impersonators? They both do a Vegas act.
We're not going to sing. We don't sing.
Joan, we know who your least favorites were. Who were your favorites to work for?
My very favorites, Dudley Moore, Anthony Newley, Aaron Spelling, Tony Bennett.
Mary, would you tell Elvis's secrets if someone offered you enough money?
No. If I knew anything bad on him, I wouldn't tell it. But I don't. And I told them, I said, I don't know anything bad that I could tell you about him. But if I did, I wouldn't tell it to you.
Thank you all so much.
And I want to say one more.
I'm having rice and beans tonight for Millie. Thank you folks for being here. You folks enough for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you, Mike. Back here.